There's something special about the dark. Nighttime makes ordinary things feel more memorable. So it's natural to want to spice up your coloring project by turning it into a nighttime scene. Santa Claus looks more magical with a starry sky behind him. Trick-or-treating is more fun under a full moon. And s'mores taste better by the campfire. But do you get kind of frustrated because your night scenes never really feel like real night? Why doesn't it work? Today, let's look at why midnight coloring needs more than just a black background. And I'll show you a few easy tricks for coloring in the dark. Now, I happen to be using markers and colored pencils today, but this is stuff that I learned in art school. Actually, in a figure painting class. Most of what I share isn't about the specific art supply in your hand. It's about how you're choosing and using color. So today's video applies to your favorite medium, whatever that might be. Anything from oil paint to crayons, even digital. The things we're talking about today are universal concepts. Okay, so here's the problem. We've got some s'mores, and we want them in the dark. So this is where a lot of us would pull out the old black paper. Either you'll try coloring the s'mores directly on black, or maybe you'll just color it regular and then glue it onto the black paper. And then there are the last-minute backgrounders, the people who decide at the last minute to color all around everything with a big black marker. Okay, so the reason we do this, well, I blame Charles Schulz. Every single one of us either grew up watching this, or we've been heavily influenced by people who watched it. We all know this scene. But this is animation, and even for 1960s technology, this was cheap animation. Don't get me wrong, I love this show, but Chuck, you did us wrong. The problem is we're usually thinking about the Great Pumpkin when we do this. It's cute, but it doesn't look like real night. And that's because there's a big difference between coloring in black and coloring in the dark. Okay, so confession time. This is not a new project. I did these s'mores in the fall of 2023. And back then, I was too stupid to realize that anyone would want to watch what I was drawing. So my footage doesn't pick up until the background process. Now, this is not a step-by-step tutorial, but what's happening here, you're watching me develop a deep, dark background with distress ink. This is much easier than spending 2 hours coloring a giant background with markers, trying to get it all smooth and not streaky. Okay, the point though for you today is that I'm starting with the darkness. It's not an afterthought. This darkness isn't just a background that's been slapped on there at the last minute. This deep, dark color is the foundation for my color palette. This darkness, it influences the colors I choose. It determines how I apply those colors. And then as I'm coloring, it also changes how I see those colors. So the blackness has got to be there from the very beginning. If you're coloring graham crackers on white paper and they're surrounded by a big white background, you're gonna make lots of daytime decisions. If you want the midnight vibe, you gotta start in the dark. Okay, let's talk about the easiest thing for you to change. And for many of you, even if you do nothing else, this one thing will add instant night to most of your projects. This is the great pumpkin problem. What color is my shirt? What color is my skin? Now, some of you may remember that my shirt was green, so you might be tempted to color it with like Copic G03. And I'm a pretty pale person, so you might do my skin in E50. But that's not even close to what you're seeing right now. Colors change in the dark. Everything is less vibrant. The colors are darker and dirtier and very desaturated. We lose some colors entirely in the dark. When it's dark, our eyes don't work as well. Remember, vision is all about light waves. We technically don't see colors. We see different light wave patterns. At night, there's not as much light, so there aren't as many light waves tickling the inside of your eyeballs. The light waves that actually do make it to your eyes are duller and weaker. Color at night just goes, whoa. It doesn't look like real midnight here because the entire pumpkin patch is full of daytime saturated bright light color waves. And the same thing is true when you color trick-or-treaters or Christmas trees. Instead of getting distracted by the Christmas lights, really look at the color of the tree here. This tree is not a bright emerald green. We don't see bright colors at night. We can't see bright colors at night. Some of you only buy the bright and pretty markers. You don't like dirty colors, so you don't own anything yucky. But if you want to color a nighttime scene, you've got to go grungy with the color palette. And I know, it feels strange to color pumpkins brown, and frankly, it feels downright wrong to color parts of a Christmas tree brown. But in real life, when you turn those lights down, a lot of stuff is just, it's brown. And here's the gut punch. A lot of you have been taught to amplify that great pumpkin problem. You have literally been instructed to only use the brightest and the most neon colored pencils when you color on black paper. I've seen the videos where y'all are testing the colors to see which ones look opaque and pretty and bright and happy on black paper. Bright color on black paper is the exact opposite of what you want for a nighttime scene. Bright on black only works if you're coloring s'mores in Chernobyl. We're coloring s'mores by the campfire, so the colors are gonna be dull. And I know that's less exciting, but it's more realistic. If you want things real, you gotta tone down those colors. Now let's talk about the shading process, because while dirty colors absolutely will make a significant improvement, they're not the whole solution. The truth is, most of us really don't want to color stuff in the dark. Full dark is kind of boring. We really don't want dark. We actually want just a little bit of light coming from someplace. The problem is when there's only a little bit of light, the shade can get pretty intense. The S'mores project here was created for my advanced level membership group, and I'm always telling my students to go easy on the shading because most people shade things far darker than they need to. But if you're coloring a night scene, let your demons out to play. Now, some of you probably would shade dark melty chocolate with something even darker, like maybe brownish black. But even the most shade-happy maniac would have trouble shading white marshmallows with a black marker. In the dark, though, light is precious, and if something's not directly catching the light, it's going to sit in the dark, very dark. In night scenes, we begin with darker, dirtier colors, but then we also shade them with more extreme values. You gotta pump up the volume on the shade. You can't be a wimp in the dark. This next one is going to be a challenge. I'll be honest with you, some people never get comfortable with this technique. There are professional artists who just pretend this technique doesn't exist. But when someone turns out the lights, we see this effect everywhere. So if you don't do this, it's a gigantic missed opportunity. It's all about your edges. Many of you only color purchased line art. Some of you sketch and ink your own drawings. But what you all have in common, though, is the outline. Now, I've said in countless classes and videos, real-life objects do not have outlines around them. But still, people keep outlining. And no, you don't get partial credit for outlining in sepia or gray or pink. Outlines are outlines. Many colorists are almost psychologically conditioned that you need an outline to separate, like the nose from the face, or the chin from the neck, or the left marshmallow from the right marshmallow. You've done the line stuff for so long that everything looks naked without a line around it. So what I'm about to ask you to do is going to set off all your alarm bells. When parts of the s'mores are enveloped in the deepest shade, we gotta lose those edges. How many times have you been startled when your cat or your kid just suddenly jumps out of the darkness? It happens all the time. They're not trying to scare you. You just didn't see them coming. We don't see well at night. Everything has softer edges and some stuff just kind of melts away into the blackness. That's a major characteristic of our vision at night. Remember, there's not as many light waves bouncing around. That means less color, but it also means less sharpness and clarity. Yeah, logically we know that this graham cracker has 4 edges, but in the dark, we would never see that back edge. It's too dark to see back there. So there's this easing process that has to happen with your pencils, markers, or paint, where we darken some of those edges to match the color of the background. And then we bring some of that dark color forward into the object so that it just slowly starts to fade away and we lose the edge or even the whole back half in the darkness. It's a really cool trick. And remember, I said I colored this last year. As I'm looking at this footage, I am kicking myself for not losing more of these edges, especially on the marshmallows. Like I told you, even professional artists resist doing this step, and right now, I'm vowing to do it a lot better next time. My last observation is that the reason we want to do night scenes is to create drama. And there is nothing more dramatic than candles or holiday lights or jack-o'-lanterns, all of which glow. They're like these shining points of light in the darkness. I love that kind of drama. As we discussed today, night is more than a background color. And if you want something to look like it's glowing, you're also going to need more than a black piece of paper. The glow effect is something that I love to do so much. I have dedicated an entire video to showing you exactly how I light things up with very simple colors that you already own. I'll link to that lesson here for you. And until I see you again in the next video, remember, it's just paper. And realistic nighttime scenes, they're not as hard as you think. You can do this.